You're about to spend $2, $3, maybe $500 on a CPU, and the spec sheet looks like someone sneezed alphabet soup onto a product page. Cores, threads, TDP, IPC, cache, boost clocks. What actually matters? What's marketing fluff? And what's the one spec that almost nobody talks about that will make or break your gaming experience? We're going through all of it in plain English with the actual benchmarks to prove it right now. Chapter 1. Cores. A core is a physical, independent processing unit etched directly onto the silicon die of your CPU. It is not a software trick. It is not virtual. It is actual hardware, a real brain inside the chip doing real math. One core handles one thread of instructions at a time. That's it. So when game developers, browser engineers, and video editors all want a piece of your processor simultaneously, more cores mean more work gets done in parallel. Here's the real-world number you need. 6 to 8 physical cores is the current data-backed sweet spot for modern AAA gaming. Not 2, not 16, 6 to 8. Games like Cyberpunk, Call of Duty, and Elden Ring are built to spread their workload across that range. That's where developers are optimizing. Now, does that mean more cores are useless? No, but there's a wall. After 8 cores, diminishing returns hit hard for gamers. 12, 16, 24 cores? That territory belongs to video editors rendering 4K timelines, 3D artists running simulation passes, and engineers running CAD software. For a gaming rig, you are paying for cores you will never wake up. Chapter 2. Threads. Threads are where the marketing gets slippery, so pay attention. Modern CPUs use a technology called simultaneous multithreading. Intel brands it hyperthreading, AMD calls it SMT. Same concept. What it does is allow one physical core to present itself as 2 logical processors to the operating system. Your OS sees 8 cores as 16 threads. It looks great on paper, but here's what they don't put in the box. Threads do not double your raw compute power. The physical core underneath is still one core. What SMT actually does is improve how that core manages its workload. It fills execution gaps, handles task queuing, and smooths out frame pacing in games. That last part matters. Smoother frame pacing means fewer micro-stutters, which is a real-world benefit. But if you're expecting double the performance because the thread count doubled, that's not how this works. Threads are a force multiplier on an efficient core. They are not a substitute for more physical silicon. Chapter 3. Clock speed. Clock speed is measured in gigahertz, billions of execution cycles per second. A CPU running at 5.0 gigahertz completes 5 billion cycles every second. That is legitimately mind-bending engineering. But here's what the spec sheet doesn't explain clearly. There are 2 different clock speeds listed, and they are not the same thing. The base clock is the guaranteed minimum. It's what the CPU will run at heavy, sustained, all-core load, like a long Blender render or a CPU-intensive simulation. It's the floor. The boost clock is the ceiling, a temporary maximum usually hit on just 1 or 2 cores during short burst workloads. Your CPU boosts, does the heavy lifting on that one task, then backs off. You will rarely sustain boost clock across all cores simultaneously.
So why does clock speed matter for gaming specifically? Because certain games are not well threaded. Esports titles, CS2, Valorant, Rainbow Six Siege run a huge portion of their workload on a single thread. When you're pushing 400 frames per second at 1080p, high clock speeds on individual cores are the primary driver of that performance. That's why a high-frequency 6-core CPU can beat a slower 16-core workstation chip in a game like Valorant. The game doesn't care about core count, it cares about how fast one core runs. Chapter 4. IPC. The spec nobody mentions. This is the one. If you only learn one thing from this video, make it IPC. Instructions per clock measures how much actual computation is completed in a single cycle. Two CPUs can both run at 3.5 GHz, but if one has a modern architecture and one is 5 years old, they are not performing the same amount of work per cycle, not even close. IPC is entirely determined by the physical design of the silicon, the architecture generation. How efficiently are the transistors laid out? How smart is the branch predictor? How wide are the execution pipelines? All of that is baked into the chip at the foundry. Here's a real example. A modern CPU running at 3.5 GHz will outperform a 5-year-old CPU running at 5.0 GHz because of how much generational IPC has improved. The old chip is spinning faster and doing less actual work per cycle. The new chip is slower on the clock and doing more actual work per tick. This is exactly why a raw gigahertz comparison between an older chip and a newer chip is almost meaningless. The architecture generation is the multiplier. Clock speed is just the rate. If that IPC breakdown just saved you from buying the wrong CPU, hit subscribe. We do this for every PC part on the channel. Chapter 5: Cache and 3D V-Cache. Cache is ultra-fast SRAM built directly onto the CPU die. Its entire job is to keep the processor from waiting on system RAM, because even DDR5, fast as it is comparatively glacial versus what the CPU can process. The hierarchy goes L1 is the smallest and fastest, L3 is the largest and slowest. Though slowest here still means it's operating at a speed that makes your RAM look like it's moving through wet concrete. When the CPU needs data, it checks L1 first. Miss. It checks L2. Miss. It checks L3. If it's not there, it has to reach out to system RAM, and that wait, measured in nanoseconds, is what causes frame stuttering. Now here's where it gets interesting. AMD's 3D V-Cache technology stacks additional L3 cache directly on top of the CPU die using vertical silicon bonding. Some chips ship with over 100 megabytes of L3 cache. The result? Massive improvements in 1% low frame rates. Not average FPS, the low end, the stutters, the hitches, the moments where the game freezes for a frame right when you're pushing through a doorway. More L3 cache means the CPU keeps more of the game's frequently accessed data local, reducing those RAM fetch stalls, and that directly translates to a smoother in-game experience. Average FPS is what benchmarks show you. 1% lows are what you actually feel. Chapter 6: TDP, the number that's lying to you. TDP stands for Thermal Design Power. It's measured in watts, and it tells you how much heat your cooling solution needs to dissipate. Straightforward concept, except manufacturers have turned it into one of the most misleading numbers in the industry. Modern CPUs operate under two power states. Intel calls them PL1, the base sustained power, and PL2, the maximum turbo power. AMD uses a similar framework under different names, the main one being PPT, or package tracking. Different labels, same principle. There's a floor and a ceiling, and the ceiling is what actually matters for your build.
Here's the deception. A CPU advertised with a 65-watt TDP can draw over 150 watts under peak load. The 65W is the sustained baseline. The turbo ceiling, the number that determines what cooler and power supply you actually need, is significantly higher, and it's often buried in a spec sheet most buyers never look at. If your cooler can't handle the actual peak wattage, the CPU will thermally throttle, dropping its clock speeds automatically to prevent overheating. You've paid for a fast chip, and you're running it slow because the box told you a cooler that handles 65 watts was sufficient. Check the turbo power limit for your specific chip. Size your cooling to that number, not the headline TDP. Chapter 8: The Bottleneck Equation. Everything we've covered lands here.
CPU bottlenecking happens when your CPU cannot prepare and feed frames to the graphics card fast enough. The GPU finishes its work, looks for the next frame, and waits. That wait shows up as lower than expected frame rates and poor frame pacing, even when you have a powerful GPU. But here's the critical variable. Resolution changes everything. At 1080p, the GPU has less work per frame, so it processes frames faster, which means it's waiting on the CPU more often. CPU performance is the deciding factor at 1080p. This is why 1080p benchmarks specifically exist to test CPU differences. At 1440p in 4K, the GPU workload explodes. Rendering 4 million pixels per frame keeps the GPU busy. The CPU has time to catch up. At those resolutions, even a mid-range modern CPU will rarely bottleneck a high-end GPU. The GPU becomes the limiting factor. Buy your CPU based on your target resolution. 1080p high refresh rate competitive gaming? Maximize clock speed in IPC. That's where fast esports chips earn their price. 4K cinematic gaming? A mainstream 6-core modern CPU will serve you well, and the GPU budget is where your money should go. Cores give you parallelism. Threads improve task management. Clock speed drives single-threaded workloads. IPC keeps the CPU from waiting on RAM. TDP tells you, if you read past the headline, what cooling you actually need. And the socket determines how many years that platform stays relevant. And resolution determines which component actually matters for your use case. That's every CPU spec that matters. You now know more than most people who've been building PCs for years.
Now that you know how to pick a CPU, you need to know how to not bottleneck it with the wrong RAM. Click the video on screen. Every RAM spec explained in 12 minutes.